Hello everybody and welcome back to another Kings of War tournament report. I'm Visibly Riley, and today we're covering Game 2 of the Tacoma Masters Prep event, which saw my Ogres facing off against the Empire of Dust. So this battle was was fought with the scenario Invade in mind. And Invade's pretty simple. You basically just draw a line down the middle of the table, better than I did, hopefully, and you're just trying to get your units across that center line. For every bit of unit strength you get fully on your opponent's side of the table, you gain 1 VP. So that's the point. Pretty simple. And after the very narrow tie I got against the Abyssal Dwarves, I'm firmly in the middle of the pack here, which is it's pretty nice for a for any event where you have hobby points as well as the major determinant of the first, second, third. Being middle of the pack is pretty good as long as you also have a lot of hobby points. So while I'm not as confident in this ogre army as I kind of painted all of it that week before, or not all of it, but like all the chariots and the goblins, and I didn't really want to paint the ogre boomers, so I just whipped out some ogres that I had from my old War Machine days. But yeah, I just sort of slapped it together last second, but I'm happy with it. So I think I should get some pretty decent hobby points, and so yeah, the middle of the pack is pretty good. So to go over the terrain real quick, of course there are terrain features that are off the map because I'm very good at picture taking. So starting out in the top left-hand corner, we have a piece of height flat rough terrain. Then over here to the right of it, we have a height 6 forest. And then to the right of that, we have a height 4 impassable building. And then down here, we have a height 1 barrier attached to a height flat piece of terrain. Down here, off screen a little bit, I think is another height 6 forest, just down here in the corner. Up here is a height 2 hill. And then to the left of that, we have another height 1 barrier attached to a height 4 house. And then the last bit here, I think that's the start of the other height 2 hill. I know there are 2 hills on this table, but I think that's the terrain. And yeah, as for the army, my opponent is, of course, running Empire of Dust. This picture was taken after Vanguard because his swarms here vanguarded forward. But starting from left to right, we have a what is that? Oh, it's a bone dragon, so we've got a bone dragon there. Then to the right of the bone dragon, we of course have the swarms, and then behind the swarms, we have our first cursed high priest. This is mounted, of course, on that horse there, but a horse is a horse, of course. But also rocking the Mirrodin's amulet and the Fireball 10 plus Vicious upgrade. To the right of that Lich Priest, we have 2 bone giants. Then to the right of that, we have a regiment of chariots. To the right of that, we have a regiment of mummies with the casket, and behind that, a second Lich Priest. I believe this, or cursed High Priest. I believe this one is has the heal 4 upgrade, but also has the Shroud of the Saint, so heal 7. I think it's heal 4 for them. And then we've got in the, you'd think I know as I play this army, but meh. Right here in the forest, we have a unit of enslaved guardian archers, pretty good. I know they have the blessing of the gods. Then to the right of them, we have a regiment of mummies, a second one with again a casket of souls. To the right of them, we have a horde of revenants. I don't think they have any upgrades. And I know that there's a Lich Priest somewhere. It's probably right here in this mess of banners and under this arrow I just drew. But that is another Lich Priest with heal, and I don't... oh, and Banner the Griffin. And lastly, we have a second and final regiment of chariots. So my opponent has a pretty elite Empire of Dust army here. I actually do like it, although obviously in 2019 it'll be way better, as it already has the mummies and a Lich Priest, or a High Priest. So yeah, it'll be way better then, and these archers getting +1 to hit in melee, that's just great. So it'll be a lot better in 2019, but for a 2018 list, I think it's okay. Especially as my opponent told me that this is more of a hobby army for him, right? Like, he just really likes the way that the models look, and yeah, as far as that goes, I think it's about as strong as it can get. with the, you know, using the models he has here, or using the vast majority of them, it's about as strong as it's going to get. So yeah, I think I match up well into it, but who knows? You know, those Guardian Archers can just remove hordes of Ogres, so we'll see. And moving on to turn 1, this time using my opponent's turn dial. So turn 1, the Ogres win the roll-off and just advance forward. We are a little trepidatious here because of all that surge, but since he decided to vanguard a swarm over to me, and just like the Gore Riders in the other turn, he vanguarded them over towards my boomers, and I think the problem here is that he wasn't really sure what my models were, and I'm not sure. Maybe I generally, when I'm deploying things, tell people what they are. I go, this is a boomer sergeant, or I go, I'm deploying this horde of hunters. They have the brew of strength. But I think my opponent and I were just chatting. We've known each other for a while, and yeah, so I think we were just sort of over it. But yeah, I'm not sure this was a great idea, as I have so much shooting over here that I'm just going to destroy them, right? They're not going to do anything. And since my shooting is all range 12, it's not like I had a target otherwise. I mean, I guess it makes the Bone Dragon have a charge, but who cares? So yeah, I decided to shoot everything into these swarms, and otherwise I have my my Warlock is, yeah, my Warlock's right here, gonna slap around a what is that spell? Aura of Heroism, which I actually forget to do, and thankfully my opponent lets me roll it. And then I rolled the dice and went, nope, none of those worked. And just in my head, because in 2019 Aura of Heroism is only 2 dice, in 2018 is 3 dice. So I rolled my 3 dice and then only counted 2 of them and went, well, miss, it doesn't do anything. So I did hit with that last one, so my opponent both let me take something back and then told me the number of hits I actually got. So, you know, bit of sportsmanship there, I think. But yeah, I decided to just pummel these swarms. They're gone. And I do have a Bone Dragon that can charge me here, but it can only charge into the front of my units. And I've run enough Bone Dragon games to know that a Bone Dragon front charge is just nothing. You know, it's 9 attacks on 4+ with Crush 3, which is pretty good, right? Until you realize that they're only defense 4 and 200 points. So if he charges anything over here, I will either countercharge him or just shoot it to hell. So yeah. And we move forward to turn 1 for, oh yeah, this is the end of turn 1 for the Ogres. You can see that the swarms are gone. Turn 1 for the Empire of Dust. They shamble on forward. He's running these chariot regiments as chaff units, and I think that's a great idea. Regiment, especially the Revenant chariots, make excellent chaff because they're pretty tough. They have a couple of shots, or in terms of medium chaff, right? But they're very tough, or pretty tough. They have some range attacks, you know, so they can throw some pip damage in, and they, most importantly, are relatively cheap. I know a horde is 175-ish, 170, so yeah, I can't imagine. I think the, you know, those chariots must be maybe 100 points, so yeah, pretty good. As for movement, yeah, he just moves forward to keep his battle line. He is a little off point here, right, to make sure that things aren't exactly lined up, to enable him to be able to corkscrew. That's smart. And I think he's positioned, I know that these chariots here are positioned for a surge forward to block me up, but I don't know if these ones were ever intended to do that, mostly because I just have all this shooting over here, right, so not really much of a point. But the Bone Dragon does fly over here and charge some goblins, so I mean, on the one hand, the goblins are the most likely thing for him to kill, as you know, they're Def 4 and they're 9/11 base nerve, although they do have the +1 due to Aura of Heroism giving rally, so they're a 10/12. So yeah, the dragon could pretty easily pop right through them and then overrun over here. So I guess that's pretty good, as I will have to basically just turn around to deal with it, and then these guys can, you know, surge my butt. But you know, he's also out of range of his surge, and if he, I don't know. Anyway, not what I would do, but anyway. And here is the end of the turn. You can see that on the right here, these chariots have surged forward just to get right in front of my chariots. I think he needed an 8 or a 9 to get that surge into my regiment of chariots, and misses it by like 1 inch. So yeah, if he had nailed that, that would have been an amazing surge. But all he really wanted to do was block up my chariots from being able to do anything but fight his chariots. So, you know, seems good to me. And yeah, this bone dragon does what bone dragons do and just bounces off goblins. I'm not even sure he wavers them. It's, you know, it's just what they do. It's 4+ to hit units. Happens. And we move on to turn 2. So turn 2 ogres goes by pretty quickly. We don't have a lot of fancy positioning to do. I advance my center forward and create a battle line. So again, we are slightly off, so I can get some corkscrews if I want one. Then I take my chariots and I get a flank charge onto his chariots and a front charge on with the others. I didn't have to take this front charge, right? I could have hidden, but I didn't see the point in it because I want my chariots to basically mirror this over here, right? And yeah, I decided to put my lord on chariot over there. He's not facing anything, but I don't need him to fight, right? I just need him to mess around with people. And if any units do decide to go over to either my hunters or my siege breakers, he does have counter charges. So that's the idea. My goblins are hiding right here just to threaten flanks, and probably, I mean, they threaten flanks, but they're probably not going to go for it. I plan to just move them over here. If nothing, you know, if my opponent doesn't do anything to give them a flank, they'll probably just run over here and threaten the guardian archers with a disorder next turn. So in 2 turns, I should say. So that's the plan. All of my shooting actually just backs up. So my boomers back up 3 inches or about 3 inches. My boomer sergeant just turns towards the dragon on that hill. The goblins back up a little bit, and the last boomer sergeant here just decides to take control of this little barrier and fire off some shots into this regiment of chariots. I'm not expecting anything, but if my opponent is casting heal instead of fireball or surge, I'd prefer that for right now. At least assuming I'm not shooting mummies. And if he goes for the charge here, again, I don't think that's a great idea. I don't have counter charges lined up. These guys might not, but I still have the ability to shoot him down. Unfortunately, during my opponent's turn, I actually forgot about this. Those guardian archers do 7 wounds to my boomers and waver them. So a little unlucky for me, but it's not that bad. I mean, those guardian archers have 18 shots on 5+, on a 5+, and then elite, right? So, you know, 7 wounds, it's just slightly above. So yeah, I'll take that. As for the combat, yeah, these guys just destroy those chariots. I don't double one it, and we get to move forward. You can actually see, you know, a bit of my paint jobs here. Yeah, these guys, I'd say they're about 50% finished. You know, obviously I didn't do anything with the metals. I haven't done the hair really, or any of this, you know, any of this bone color. None of the wood is done. And the mounts themselves, I really like this dark leather, but I haven't done any of the highlighting or anything. So this is what I would call base coated at this point. But yeah, and they'll probably stay that way. I'm not really interested in painting these chariots with the 2019 changes, so unless there's an additional change to Hell on Wheels or I feel the need to run a horde of chariots, I probably will not do anything with them. And here is the end of the round. So yeah, I do knock out this chariot horde, but I only do 14 wounds to the bone dragon, which actually isn't all that bad because it does put him on double ones. And I do it. Wait, no, does it put him on double ones? Is there? Oh, I think that puts him on double ones, and I didn't take a picture. Maybe we messed up the nerve, or maybe he's an 18. I'm just misremembering it. But yeah, I don't kill that bone dragon, so it's still sitting there. And we move on to turn 2 for the Empire of Dust. My opponent does take some charges now. So his bone dragon has flown over me. And originally he decides to just charge into my ASB, which you can see the bit of the base there, because he thinks he's disordered, right? He expected, you know, like, well, I got charged and I didn't die, so I can't fly. And I'm like, yeah, no, I shot at you. And my opponent goes, right, and then just flies over my line. And ends about here facing the boomers from an inch away. And then this guy is just going to cast a surge onto him and go for that that hot 1-inch surge. So, both the bone giants move forward to threaten my boomers just in case something bad happens with the bone dragon. That's a pretty smart plan. The chariots, I actually did 4 wounds to them with my boomer sergeant, so that's actually really good. I didn't get a kill, but 4 wounds good. And they decide to take a charge into my other boomer sergeant. I did move him forward on purpose to make sure that the chariots couldn't get a triple charge with the giants, but I was probably out of range of getting charged by giants. So, and with surge, right, you have to do them one at a time, so it's not a multi-charge, right? Like you have to hit the spot and then you just slide to wherever you can, right? You don't make room for models. So probably a mistake with the boomer sergeant, but it's what I did. As for the right side of the table, you can see my opponent's actually moving forward, getting ready to surge. So he's going to try to get these mummies into my siege breakers, or maybe my chariots. Yeah, it's probably the chariots. I think he needs a 5 to get the chariots, and then the revenants need the same thing to get into these other chariots. I'm not afraid of either of these units killing me, but a waiver is pretty likely. But even if he gets a waiver, the mummies have set them up to get flank charged by these siege breakers if they go into these chariots right here. So yeah, I'm not really sure about that one, but it's not the worst idea, I guess. It at least gets the mummies into the fight. Personally, I probably would have turned them. I'm not sure I would have gone for the charge here with the mummies, because no, I don't know. I know my opponent, we were talking about this, and both of us play a little too aggressively, and this is a mistake I've commonly made while playing Empire of Dust, which is going like, oh, I can surge into combat, and not going, should I do that, right? Empire of Dust is not like Undead, they have very limited resources, so I'm not sure about this move. But yeah, this one's pretty good. And here is the end of Empire of Dust turn 2. The enslaved Guardian Archers shoot into my boomers that they put 7 wounds on. I can't remember how many wounds actually, if we roll, no, there's no picture of it. They do enough wounds to get another roll, and they destroy those guys. So first blood goes to, well, I guess I killed those swarms, but first real blood goes to the Guardian Archers. And yeah, on the right here, you can see he rolls up this surge, and you know, surge 10 only rolls 4 hits and doesn't get that 5-inch charge he needed to get into these chariots, so they are ready to rock, while the mummies go into these chariots and only do 2 wounds, which they don't manage the box card to waiver me, so that's pretty lucky there. I mean, I really didn't think mummies in the front could take my chariots, as you know, he's got 12 attacks on 4s and 3s, and then I am a 16-18. So, not likely that it'll kill me off, but at least he removes my Thunderous, so that's good. On the left here, you can see the chariots also hit a bit of misfortune, only managing to sink 3 wounds on my Boomer Sergeant, and to add insult to injury, they do not waiver them. And lastly, yeah, Bone Dragons, they just, I mean, they're a really, really good unit, but they just don't do things on their own. They're really more of a interdiction piece, zoning piece that finishes the job by getting these flank charges, but they don't do it on their own, because even with his 18 attacks, right, he's got 18 attacks, but they're on 4s, so, you know, you sink 9 on average, and then you do 8-ish wounds, so he rolls slightly below average, only getting 7 wounds here, but it's not all that below, and it's really, really unlikely that he's going to kill me off, especially considering the, you know, if I were a better player, or if I just played better, this Boomer Sergeant should probably be back over here, as this Bone Dragon's height 6 on the hill, right, so I can just shoot right over my boomers. If I'm here, I can just cast Aura of Heroism onto this guy, and then get these guys up to a possible 17-19. So anyway, with the 7 wounds, he doesn't manage to get that waiver, so I'm going to be countercharging with these boomers into this almost dead Bone Dragon, hoping to not double one it. And we move on to turn 3. So turn 3 for the Ogres. I really like games like this where we're just in the fight immediately, like everyone's fighting all the time. It's always fun, especially if you're the Ogre player. So, starting on the left, you can see that my boomers do in fact countercharge into the bone dragon. My goblins they couldn't see, my opponent did measure this out and did a good job of hiding his curse high priest from my goblins, making sure that they don't just snipe out a wizard. Getting your curse high priest killed is very bad, which everyone knows that. But yeah, it doesn't get it killed there, but I do have a flank charge onto chariots, and I will take that all day, as these chariots are only def 4, and I have this boomer sergeant here to lend brutal to me as well, so it's probably not great for those chariots. My other boomer sergeant moves forward to get some shots onto this curse high priest. I'm not really afraid. Like, if he sends a giant after me, I think that's a misallocation of resources. If he sends the mummies, it leaves me to have the center, and my hunters can see a lot of stuff, right? Ooh, look, an alien. So my hunters can see a lot of stuff, so I think that either way, if he goes after this guy, it'll be a mistake. The only thing that I don't think would be a mistake there is if he decides to shoot at it. But again, I'd rather him shooting at a boomer sergeant than anything else. And over here on the right, my hunters just move into taking the center. They are just out of charge range of the mummies, I believe. They might be in charge range of those mummies, but with ensnare, I'm not really worried about mummies charging me in the front. My siege breakers go for the flank on these mummies. This might have been a mistake. I should probably have moved the hunters more here to protect me from a rear charge in case I double one or flub that in any way. But I'm so far ahead right now in the game that I'm getting a little overconfident. So I go there. My warlord just decides to stare at the table, making sure that, you know, if these mummies over here decide to join the fight, he'll have a counter charge. And my chariots double charge into the revenants, as I can corkscrew with these chariots. I won't have thunderous, but it is a flank charge. And then the other chariots just have a full frontal charge, but they do have their thunderous. So yeah, seems like a good move to me. Lastly, over here on the bottom left, my warlock decides to just stare at the bone dragon. I don't have a whole lot to do with the warlock, so I think I'm just going to slap a Aura of Heroism onto one of these 3 units, and you know, this gives them the option. Yep, just showing off this combat and that one, and of course this and that. So, oh, I guess, yeah, he had 14 wounds on him, because that's the life leech, bringing it down to by 1. Yeah, this is funny. So I go in to fight the revenants. I love taking pictures of irrelevant double ones. I did only do 16 wounds to these guys, and they are, I believe, natively a 21-23, maybe a 22-24. And then this Kalita model has the Banner of the Griffin, so that is a Curse High Priest. And that's bringing him to even higher. I get the double one though, so I gotta take that picture. But otherwise, everything goes pretty well for the ogres. My siege breakers managed to kill off the mummies. This is actually at the top of 3 for the Empire Dust. But anyway, so my siege breakers managed to kill off the mummies. My boomer sergeant and the goblins kill off those chariots. My boomers finish off that bone dragon, and yeah, things are looking pretty good. Now the Empire Dust turn 3 starts, and I'm gonna get charged a lot on the left here. But I don't really know if I care. The one giant goes into my goblins, one giant goes into my, what is that thing? A boomer sergeant. And I don't expect either of them to live, but still, I don't really care if they die. Now, the thing I'm worried about is that he does have a curse high priest ready to shoot into my wounded boomers, and since I cast Aura of Heroism on them, they do not have a rally to buff their nerve. So that's a little disconcerting. But in the middle, you can see I think his mummies are getting ready to go for a longish surge charge into my siege breakers. Yeah, those siege breakers are completely unwounded, so I don't know about that. And the revenants countercharge into my wounded chariots. He originally thought, you know, why not go into these ones, but I was just like, yeah, but why would you, right? Like, either way, I'm gonna get a flank with my chariots. You probably want to be facing this way anyway, in case it fails, right? And these guys are already wounded. So anyway, he goes into my wounded chariots on those hills. And here, yeah, the goblins are sitting on 3 wounds. This guy's sitting on 3 wounds, so I don't expect either of them to be around after fighting giants. But giants, again, they're D6 or they're D6 plus 6 attacks with 4 plus to hit, so you know, just high variance. And the mummies do make it into my siege breakers. Again, I'm not really afraid of mummies in the front with any of my units, and especially not the siege breakers. I'm not sure. Oh, this is the cursed high priest ready to shoot me, and don't know what that one is. Sorry. So yep, last combat there. The revenant's into me, and yeah. So he shoots into my boomers. Does 4 wounds to me, which is pretty good. Puts me on 11. That's a 4 to waver, 6 to kill, and again we get an irrelevant double 1. So I mean, this one's more relevant than the one I did against the revenants, but relevant revenants, but still funny to see. And here is the end of turn 3. So as you can see, did he not kill the goblins in the... Man, I don't remember that part at all. I guess the Boomer Sergeant and goblins lived. The Siege Breakers took 2 wounds from the mummies. That's not... I don't really care about that. My Chariots took 1 wound from the Revenants, and they do not waver, so they're ready to go. And that's about it. Oh, yeah, these archers are really getting their pay though, and they do 7 wounds to the hunters this time. So they've done 7 wounds every round, I want to say. So consistent. Oh, excuse me. And this is the... Oh, no. Yeah, we just hadn't done the fights over here. Yeah, the goblins and the Boomer Sergeant die. I was like, that I don't remember that at all. But yeah, so they're dead, and we move on to turn 4. So turn 4, Ogres get into some more fights. On the left here, you can see my boomers, who they could shoot, but boomers are actually better in combat than they are at shooting. And also, if I get a good overrun, I can just dodge past this giant. So I go into the Curse High Priest, one, because always go for the Curse High Priest, especially ones with Fireball. Early, get rid of them, and then all I need is that, I think I need a 3-inch overrun, and I'm out of here. My little ASB goes into the side of this giant, and I'm really not sure why I did this. Not the best move. I probably just wasn't thinking. Yeah, that's fair. But I probably just wasn't thinking about it because it's not so much that I care if this guy dies, it's that I care if he can face this way for free, right? Because he can kill my guy, overrun D6, and then be, towards the actually relevant part of the game. So small mistake there, or big one, depends on what happens later. The captain, or the warlord and the siege breakers go into the mummies. That one's a front charge, so I'm not, I expect to be able to kill them, but they are currently a -19 due to the Banner of the Griffin here, so it's not assured. My goblins peer around the side, getting ready to get some charges in the next turn or so. They're out of line of sight of the archers, so there's no shooting that can be possibly done to them, as these Lich Priests do not, or Cursed High Priests, do not have the ability to shoot. They do not have Fireball. The Chariots go again for the combo charge on the Revenants. This time, these guys get the flank, and these guys get the front. So, yep, just sharing that up. And lastly, we have my Warlock just going, I don't want to be here anymore, and just running around the house, running away from the giants, and assuming that the boomers will be able to kill this Cursed High Priest. So that's the plan. And yeah, just showing off the combats. Got these. Excuse me. That's a hinder charge because I charged over that barrier. And this one. So here is the end of turn 4 for the Ogres. We have wiped out what we thought we did, but we didn't exactly go as far as I wanted. The boomers on the left here, yeah, they killed that Curse High Priest, but they only overrun 2 inches, so they're still within line of sight of this giant. So they're almost certainly dead. They've got 11 wounds on them, and they're about to be flank charged by at least 1 giant. My ASB does not do a whole lot to this guy. He is not impressed. But, I do some wounds because there is a die there, so there's that. My Siege Breakers, and the Warlord here do manage to kill off the mummy, so that's great. That's the one I was actually worried about not happening. Like, the rest of these I was worried about, but that one is not the best odds. So, yep, the Siegebreakers decide to overrun to threaten the archers, as they don't really care if they shoot and surge at me. I mean, it'd be bad, but not the worst. So, yeah, and then my chariots managed to finally kill off the revenants. By finally, I mean turn 4, killing a horde of revenants is pretty good. So, things are looking very good for the Ogres, and the Empire Dust is in a lot of trouble, as I've got so much unit strength across that line. In fact, I have every point of unit strength. No, the boomers are not across, but anyway. Here is Empire of Dust turn 4. It's pretty simple. Both the Bone Giants here charge into their respective units. This Bone Giant charges into the flank of the Boomers, while this Bone Giant charges into the front of my ASB. It might look like he's facing this way, but that's just because this hammer is just too big. So, yeah, anyway, they charge there, and there are no other charges because the Enslaved Guardians would never charge, but they're still only a 5+ to hit in 2018. They don't have Pathfinder, so even if he shambles into me, he can't clear this wood, right? So he'd be hitting me on 6s. So instead he just sits there, gets ready to shoot. The Cursed High Priest hides behind them from my dogs. The other Cursed High Priest hides from my other units over by the graveyard. Seems apropos. And that's about it. And yeah, just showing off these combats. Yeah, and here is so we show off the double ones. It's only fair that we show off the boxcar in this case, which is my opponent has put 22 wounds on me, or I have 22 wounds on me, and then he boxcars the roll, so just add little salt for that wound. And here is the end of turn 4 for the Empire of Dust. My opponent actually fails pretty hard with the Guardian Archers this turn, and only managed to put 2 wounds on my Hunters, but at least nails the Waver even with the Rally 2 on him. So these guys are currently a 17-19 and still gets it, but that's really bad on that hit and wound, so I'll take it. Moving on to turn 5. So turn 5, just looking, it looks like I didn't get a picture of the middle of turn 5, but here's the cleanup. I charge with my chariots and my Siegebreakers into his Enslaved Guardian Archers, hoping to get the kill there. I just take these chariots and face towards this Cursed High Priest. I don't really care about killing her or zoning her super well. I'm just looking to be across the middle line, and if he ever leaves her somewhere, I will kill her. So that's the plan. My dogs move forward to just chase down this one, and we stay away from the giants. This Boomer Sergeant still has guns, so gets within 12 of one of the giants, who could charge it, but oh no, I think I dodged the line of sight of this giant, and then I stay out of charge range of this one and just shoot here. I don't do enough damage to actually do anything though, so meh. And we move on to turn 5 for the Empire of Dust. Turn 5 Empire of Dust, the giants just back away from the ogres, realizing that they don't want to take any of those charges and get tabled. So yeah, they move around. The giant here is chasing my warlock, making sure that he gets zoned in the same way that my chariots on the right are messing with the Cursed High Priest. The Cursed High Priest that was behind the Guardian Archers just runs all the way over here, away from the fights. So seemed okay. I think it doesn't look like he's at a 20 there, but he's got to be. And here is the end of the game. It looks like I didn't. Yeah, here's the turn dial, but I forgot to take a picture of it. So yeah, turn 6, I decided to just not move anything, I guess. I think I had a charge with these guys. I don't know why I didn't do it. But yeah, I just don't do anything. This Boomer Sergeant runs away from this giant and just decides to shoot at one of the Cursed High Priests. My Warlock runs away from this giant just around here, making sure that no line of sight could be had. And these chariots just turn all the way around to mess with the Cursed High Priest, who is off frame. And that's about it. That's all I can do. And excuse me, turn 6 for Empire of Dust. All the units again keep running. This giant here just backs up, getting out of charge range, while this giant here turns the corner to mess around with my warlock some more, and this cursed high priest just runs off from the boomer sergeant. This cursed high priest is just staring at my wizard. I don't think she has fireball, so not sure what she's doing besides dodging my chariots. And we move on to turn 6 for the Empire of Dust. Wait, no, this is turn 7. Yeah, we had a turn 7. So, yep, my warlock runs around the house, hiding from the giant, and everything else just sits put because I have no shots I can possibly do. And turn 7 for the Empire of Dust is mostly just meandering. This guy moves off the hill, right? Because he wanted to cast heal. I was like, well, I mean, you've got, you know, this guy's at 1 wound, so just heal him. And he's like, no, I want to heal the one with 4 wounds on it. And he gets it to all 4 hit and heals him up. Actually, I think those are the dice. Oh no, that one must have Shroud of the Saint, but either way, heals all the wounds off, which is kind of funny. And oh, that's the end of the game. So it ends up with an ogre victory. We've got 3 unit strength, 6, 7, 9, 10, 12 unit strength. I'm sorry, 13 unit strength across the line to my opponent's 1, 2. And the only unit strength I don't have is this little wizard, and it ends up being a pretty crushing defeat for my opponent. So I'm at 1 minor draw, meaning that I ended up with 9 points in that draw, and I think I end up with 17 or 18 points here due to the attrition difference. So things are looking pretty good at the middle of day 1, and you'll just have to join me to see what happens on game 3, so final game of the day. Thanks for watching. See you next time.